And welcome back to Shuffle Time here on Justin TV. It's that time again, folks. It's time for the random list. And this week we picked out a strange little gem from another site that is devoted to nothing but top 10 lists. I am in heaven. This time it comes to us from tiptop10s.com. Yes, that's the name of the actual site. Hey, you thought I was only a list first person? I enjoy a little bit of everything. And given that we had the ceremonial dice roll, unfortunately Kay won. So Kay gets to go first, I think.
Alrighty. I guess I'll just jump right in, starting with number 10. Yes, good.
This week's list is 10 geeky items you might want to buy in 2012.
Starting with... Well, okay, people are already going to have this as of today. You may be able to figure out what I'm talking about. It's the new Apple $500 iPad. And I still find that to be ridiculously priced. Whatever. Snazzy device, though, I would imagine. They are good little things. My beef with them, though, come on, how long are we going to need to be stuck on, like, 16, 32, 64 gig models of things? I wouldn't buy a flash card any smaller than 32 or 64 gigs, and those are pretty tiny. I'm pretty sure we can manage to get a little bit more space into, like, an actual personal computing device, which is, at least in some circles, supposed to replace laptops. My netbook has a better storage capacity than this, and though it's not as good in many other ways. Still, neato device. Of course, there are batshit crazy people who have lined up for over a week just to get a tablet because, oh my god, it says Apple. And that's kind of all we really have with it. I don't get it. Maybe it's just because I don't have an iPad and I don't particularly want one. I wouldn't refuse if I was given one, but I have no use for one either. If I wanted to read things, I got a Kindle for that. If I want to listen to music, I've got an iPhone for that, and it's a phone. And if I wanted to touch something, I'm not going to go any farther with that. I don't get it. That's number 10.
Number 9 on this list is one of Apple's chief competitors. It is Samsung and the Samsung Galaxy S3. Now, some of you have seen this commercial where it shows the elite sits camping out in line for a new product. In this case, it is Samsung taking direct shots at Apple and trying to show that they are just as good as Apple, or in some things even better. I have seen bits and pieces of Samsung's, all their Galaxy stuff. Looks kind of nice, I gotta say.
I've seen people with the Galaxy S2 and whatnot, and they are neat little phones. Though, and this is going to kind of come across as a bit of a hypocritical contrast considering what I just said, I much prefer my iPhone because it fits what I want the phone to do. And that's largely not to play games, but whatever.
Understandable. Let's move on.
Well, I can understand you're yawning for this next one, because I don't want it in 2012, and I have tried it. Microsoft Windows 8, also known as let's get rid of Windows and make it so they're little buttons. Because Apple has buttons, and Apple is popular, therefore buttons are popular.
Shiny
Flawless
buttons.
logic. Seriously, has anyone actually used Windows 8? Like, have you used Windows 8?
I haven't even... I'm still on XP.
Okay, so you're effectively a Windows Luddite.
No, I'm
Windows...
a cheapskate.
People pay for Windows? Windows 8 is just ass. I mean, there's no better way to qualify it. As someone... If you are at all familiar with the traditional style of Windows, of, you know, actual windows on your screen, and pointing and clicking and double-clicking, and a start menu in the bottom left, that's great! None of that is in Windows 8. Well, it is, but it's hidden away. You have to dig through Windows 8 or open up a specific portion of Windows 8 for Windows 8 to operate like every other window. What better way to alienate your entire user base than to completely change around how it works?
This is why some of us never upgrade.
There's a video I saw on YouTube, actually. I don't remember who it was by. He got his dad, who is the average user, doesn't know anything about computers really, to try out Windows 8. Had him on Windows 8, the main menu, and he tapped something, and he loaded up what looked like the old Windows settings. It's like, oh, that's cool. And for 5 minutes, he couldn't figure out how to get back to the actual main Windows 8 starting area, and he eventually gave up, asking, This is your everyday consumer, Microsoft. What the hell are you doing? Yes, the Windows 8 style works well for the Windows phones, because Windows phones are touch capable, and they are designed to be touch capable. PCs thus far, no. Even though, yes, there are capabilities for touch in it, people don't have touch monitors unless they're like a very, very tiny percentage of the user base. Why are you trying to do this? It makes no sense to me.
Let's move on. Number 7 on this list is quad-core devices. Apparently, since they weren't finished with the whole breeding of dual-core, decided that it needs to be twice as much. So they're going to quad-core. I believe NVIDIA's is called Tegra 3.
I kind of want to ask a question. I assume this is referring to quad-core devices outside of desktop computers?
I'm assuming so, yes.
Because if not, quad-cores have been in desktop computers for quite some time.
I think they're talking about the migration of it to more
handheld devices?
Mobile and tablet devices.
Ah. So now it's no longer going to be a measure of your gigahertzes, it's going to be a measure of your cores, and that's even more generalized than gigahertz.
Yes, our E-beams must grow longer.
So, we're going on from faster computers through multiple cores to faster networks. Number 6, the LTE 4th Gen network. For those of you who are in the know, which does not really include me, this is the network your new phones and your new iPad will connect to, I think. iPad's LTE, right? It can be?
Yeah.
Word. It's advertised to have a staggering data speed of up to 75 megabits per second downstream and 40 megabits per second upstream. Let's be honest, no one ever reaches the advertised speed, ever.
On whatever network.
Especially if you're outside of the US. Canada, we have 4G in some markets, I believe. It's just what 3G should be.
No one ever gets around to doing it. And no one ever enjoys the fullness that is true internet downloading. Because everything is always throttled.
We have all this awesome capacity. No, you can't use it because we have people who actually want to use the network, so we have to slow it down. Yep.
Number 5 on this list. Do we even need to cover it?
I've actually used one. I don't own it, but I've used one.
Alright, I'll cover it. Number 5 is the Sony PlayStation Vita.
It's got nice graphics. It's not really comfortable to hold. It's kind of like holding a wide iPhone. I don't really enjoy it.
It looks
I'm
like
not sure how the
it just looks like a larger version of the PSP or a larger version of the Engage.
It kind of is a larger version of the PSP. It is quite sharp, and I like the touchscreen controls. Though, Sony's not learned from Nintendo, and they're kind of shoehorning touch controls into things. I played the Uncharted demo on it, and just, if it's a game, give me the option of using the sticks, or the D-pad, or at least the freaking face button. I don't want to touch shit. I don't like having my phone or my devices covered in oil for my fingers. I'm sorry, I'm that neurotic, yes. But it's a good device otherwise. I don't know if I pay the price for it just yet.
Yeah, I've never been a big proponent of handheld gaming devices, just as a general rule.
No,
But
I'm not too down on them. I've got a DS Lite that I thoroughly enjoy.
let me put it this way. The last handheld device I had was a Game Boy Color.
Hey, those are badass.
I still have one that works.
So do I. I still have a brick that works.
So do I.
That would be the old Game Boy for anyone who doesn't know what the brick is.
And it's heavier than almost every handheld nowadays.
I was surprised that the Vita feels kind of bulky. I would not be surprised if within like the next year and a half, Sony sort of announces the PS Vita Slim, just like the Nintendo DS had the DS Lite and the PSP had the PSP Slim and then the PSP Useless.
Because just like the rest of us here in America, we're all fat, and so our devices are fat and need to be slimmed down.
Hey, I have like small hands, so it works for me.
Let's move on to number 4.
Number 4 is something I haven't actually really been up on or heard much about, but Ultrabooks, because we need a new misnomer. How are they Ultra? Anyway, for those who are not in the know, which again was me, apparently Ultrabooks are kind of the new netbooks, but they have the power of a laptop, but the size or smaller of a netbook, because they're apparently supposed to compete with the Apple MacBook. And I'm tired of saying book. These aren't books. Being put out by Lenovo and Acer, and they look kind of neat. I would be curious to see what their actual battery life is when they're being used to their capability. Probably pretty ass, but then again, most little devices are.
Yes, it's going to be really thin and very, very light, and probably will break very easily when I accidentally get up and forget to hold it while I'm standing.
No one's ever dropped their devices, especially not iDevices with their glass screens. They're durable as hell, right? I'm glad I'm largely not that klutzy. Though I have dropped my phone a few times. No issues thus far, though.
That's why I have a case on mine.
So do I.
Number 3 on this list is OLED TV sets. Now, this is being pioneered particularly by Samsung and LG. They're technically in the prototype stage. This is a organic light-emitting diode. Essentially, it allows you to have a wider viewing angle and it's supposed to be a more power-efficient TV.
Is anyone really concerned about how efficient their appliances are now that we no longer have like CRTs and like refrigerators as computers?
I think the only thing they want to know is how much bigger will this make my TV and how much cooler will it look?
Yeah, but in the era where people still haven't even gotten on the bandwagon of 3D TVs, I don't see OLEDs making really any difference, except for technophiles.
To tell you the truth, I think it would sell better than 3D.
Oh, I agree, but it's still too early. Most people probably have like 1, maybe 2 HD TVs in their home, compared to, like, I know here we had like 4 or 5 old CRTs, which was kind of ridiculous, but still, now we have 2 HD TVs.
I still have an old CRT in my bedroom.
I just don't really know what to think. It's just going to be one of those, call me back when it's, a little more mainstream and less expensive and whatever. I'll jump on that when it gets me and it's affordable.
Let's move on to number 2.
Yes, I don't know what this is. Oh! IEEE 8021 LAD.
Where's Chad when we need him?
Oh yeah, he would be up on this for sure. This is number 2, and it's a new wireless standard for data transfer, which has been around for almost a decade now, apparently. Oh wait, no. Yes? No. Blah.
No. Apparently the old standard has been around for at least a decade.
I think that's sort of tying into G, N, A, and B for the wireless standards, whereas LAD is fancy and different. and is promising data transfer rates of a phenomenal and whooping, not whopping, but whooping rate of 4 to 5 gigabits per second. And it doesn't stop there, folks. No, it goes on to reach 6 gigabits and beyond with its 60 gigahertz bandwidth. Again, this is going to mean nothing to people who don't really use wireless or don't have the capability for this at their home computers, because the only way you're getting 4 to 5 gigabits per second as a transfer rate, at least in the end user, the home user situation, is if you're transferring over your network. In which case your router's not going to keep up, because most people use their modems as their routers, and those don't have gigabit capabilities. Certainly not that big. And you're certainly not going to transfer to and from servers on the internet at 4 to 5 gigabits. So yay, we're increasing the capability, and the actual usability is essentially not there unless you're pretty much a data center.
And finally, number 1 on this list is Google. In particular, the Google Nexus. Being made particularly by Motorola. It's meant to show the next collaboration between the two companies, introducing things such as even more ultra-thin profile smartphones that'll continually to have the latest version of the Android system, and to even show further capabilities and how much power they can squeeze into a phone for more apps, for more stuff, to make you even more distracted when you're driving.
I like the fact that there's competition among the smartphone market between, the Droid phones and the iPhone, and let's laughably include BlackBerry in there. It still gets at me, though. I'm not really sure how Droid phones are supposed to compete on a large scale with the iPhone when the hardware is not standardized, because you can't really get as much of a user base as you could with an iPhone, speaking from a developer point of view.
Yes, but essentially the market is now just two companies, essentially. It's the iPhone market and the Android market. That's about all it is these days.
Don't forget Lolberry, it's still there a little bit. They just, last year or the year before, that they released their fantastic doorstop, the Playbook. I really should be supporting them more. They are a Canadian company, but they have done nothing of note, really. It's been basically years of going, ooh, look what they're doing, we should do that too. Because let's face it, BlackBerry Messenger, not that, unique anymore.
And that'll be this week's random list.